Good evening, Council. My name is Andrei Adam, and I'm in grade 11 at Abbey Park High School. I'm here to speak in support of item 4 on the agenda and convince you to declare a climate change emergency, as well as to encourage you to take more aggressive steps to fight the climate crisis. This isn't the first time I've been here before Council, giving a speech, encouraging you to do something. Back when I was in grade 6, I was before you, asking that you build a basketball court in my community. That was me then, right here. But that was then. Way back when, whether or not we were going to have a basketball court in my community was the most pressing issue on my mind. When I came up here before, I didn't know that the United Nations would say we only have until 2030 to reverse the trend with our carbon emissions or risk ecological and societal breakdown. I didn't know a quarter of Earth's biodiversity would be at risk, or that there would be 3 times the number of extreme heat days. I didn't know that my future and the future of my kids would be at risk because of the inaction of people that came before us and will be long gone when the effects of the climate crisis hit. Had I known that sooner, I would have been standing up here before you sooner as well. In grade 6, I was told that if I wanted to speak before Council, I needed to show that my idea of building a basketball court had support. I got 50 people who believed in what I was doing to write their names on a piece of paper, and I brought that for my speech. 6 weeks ago, I started another petition, this time calling on Oakville Town Council to declare a climate change emergency. What was different about this petition was that it was online, and it went viral. This post urging people to sign the petition got shared over 300 times in its first day. At first, it was getting passed around just by my friends, then by people that I had maybe met once, and then it became parents, teachers, and grandparents, people all across Oakville I had never known of, signing the petition and writing their messages of support. Today, the petition stands at 1,600 signatories, 1,600. 1,600 people that are here behind me right now, 1,600 people urging that you declare a climate change emergency. The climate change emergency report the town commissioned last meeting clearly shows that the climate crisis is an emergency. In it, it says that climate change threatens human health, the local economy, and our built and natural environment here in Oakville. Around the world, scientists are telling us our carbon emissions are making the planet uninhabitable. The UN is telling us it's an existential threat, and economists are telling us it risks uprooting all our financial systems. If this is not an emergency, what is? We wouldn't be the only government to declare a climate change emergency. More than 40 municipalities in Ontario, 623 jurisdictions around the world, and 13 countries, including ours a week ago, have declared similar emergencies. However, in other places such as Guelph, similar motions were defeated because of the misconception that this is a purely symbolic gesture. It is anything but, and we cannot let this motion fail here in Oakville. Words have power, and no one knows this better than newspapers. That's why The Guardian has stopped calling our altering of the climate as climate change, but rather as a climate crisis or climate breakdown. Their editor-in-chief explained the shift, saying, "The phrase climate change sounds passive and gentle, when what scientists are talking about is a catastrophe for humanity. We want to ensure that we are being scientifically precise while also communicating clearly the importance of this issue." Communicate clearly. That's exactly what the town needs to do. When talking to councillors, what I hear most is that we need to get average people more involved in reducing their emissions. Maybe the reason they're not engaged right now is because they don't know the urgency that exists to act. Let me give you an example. If your house is burning down and you say the exterior of your house is changing, your neighbors will watch it burn down. But if you react with, "Oh my God, this is an emergency," they'll be much more likely to call the fire department, grab a bucket, and start putting out the flames. It's really that simple. Just by changing how we talk about the climate crisis, we suddenly change the conversation from being a passive one that we're witness to something that we need to start acting upon. Words drive action. And that's why the town of Oakville must pass this climate change emergency. But 1,600 people didn't sign my petition just for you to declare a climate change emergency. They believe Oakville has an obligation to do more to tackle the climate crisis. In any discussion I've had with town staff about the issue, I hear all about the progress that has been made. Heck, 14 out of the 17 pages in the report commissioned last month were dedicated to what the town has done so far. While I'm impressed, Oakville needs to do more. To start, let's take a look at the town's current reduction strategies. Oakville has committed to reducing emissions 20% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. If every country in the world were to achieve Oakville's reduction targets, our planet would still warm between 2 and 2.5 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial levels. That's way above the 1.5 degree target set in the Paris Accord. The effects of that 2.5 degree increase would be unimaginable, yet it will be my generation who will bear witness to its effects. So on behalf of my generation, Oakville is not doing enough. The United Nations Intercontinental Panel on Climate Change is comprised of the thousands of scientists who provide the science related to global warming. This panel released a report last year which said that to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is more than in the Paris Accord, we must reduce emissions 45% by 2030 and be carbon neutral by 2050. If the town of Oakville wants to continue being a leader in the fight against the climate crisis, it must do everything in its power to reach these new IPCC targets. I know that the town is working with community partners through the Community Energy Plan, and I'm encouraged by the work the task force is doing to find ways the town can reduce emissions further. It's great having a goal, but right now, the UN and 1,600 signatories are telling us that goal is not good enough. We can do better. We must do better, and I hope the CEP does just that. Beyond the Community Energy Plan, myself and some high school students put together a report with what could be included as reduction measures. Some of the highlights include EV charging stations, implementing green roofs, putting a price on wastefulness, and a bunch of different ideas. I'll be happy to talk about who best to receive the work and who to work with to implement some of the ideas after an emergency declaration is passed. But it all comes back down to the climate change emergency. As soon as I put out the petition, people started messaging me. What can I do to reduce my emissions? I've seen firsthand that by one person calling the climate crisis for what it is, an emergency, it spurs people to act. Without the petition, there would be no 15-page report because no one would have asked to work with me in creating one. Frankly, passing a climate change emergency might be the single greatest reduction strategy the town has. Heck, as soon as it does pass, 1,600 people will be getting an email telling them that no, they're not crazy. The town agrees with them that this is indeed an emergency. The next question all of them will be asking is, what's my role in solving this crisis? To wrap it all up, I guess it's fitting that I've been here in front of you before, because both times I've been basically asking for the exact same thing. The last time I was here, I was advocating for the kids in my community. Your unanimous vote in favor of the basketball court gave those kids a place to play. Now here again today, myself and 1,600 other people are begging on behalf of entire generations that you declare a climate change emergency and do more to tackle the climate crisis. Hopefully, your unanimous vote today will give kids in our global community not only a place to play, but an Oakville and a planet that remains livable for future generations to come. Thank you. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, sir. Council, do you have questions? Councillor Elgar.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate hearing the young voice with enthusiasm. But so you're saying right now our goal is to get to 20%, and you're saying we have to get to 40% by 2030. So what do you see us doing a lot differently to get there, based on the fact recently, like Doug Ford has torn out the electric charging stations at GO train stations, I understand. So we seem to be going the wrong way. Like, so how's that going to? How are we going to get there with that kind of actions being taken now?
It's a great question, and I know that Doug Ford has been taking regressive actions on this issue, but we can only do what we can do, and we have to start here in Oakville. So there's stuff that you as counselors can do. There's stuff as we as individuals can do. I'm trying to do my part. I created this report. There's 10 actionable items. I worked with some people from the town to help create it. For sure, there needs to be a reevaluation of the town's, what the town is doing to see what needs to be done to reach that 45% target. If the steps are obtainable, then we must increase those targets. I want to work with the town to reach those 45 targets that the IPCC has set, and we really must, no matter what Doug Ford is doing.
Now, you also read recently that now scientists are saying we will not be at 1.5 degrees. We will be more than that with whatever we're doing at this point.
There are all the time a bunch of reports because the climate crisis is fluid. We can't let one report saying that what we're doing isn't good enough stop us from doing anything. We have to do everything in our power to reach those targets and pray that that's good enough. I'll be 48 by the time it's 2050 and we feel the effects of climate change. I know that we're going to be on the business end. We need to do everything we can do right now and hope that it's enough. It's late, but we can never say it's too late because then we've already lost.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, and I hope we get there. It's going to be a struggle, and I think people are not talking about global warming anymore. At least they're calling it climate change, because it used to be the old thing, the joke, well, I wish there was a little more global warming on a cold winter day. But thank you. Don't stop. Keep going with what you're doing. Thanks a lot.
Councillor Robertson.
I so enjoy your passion. I love seeing high school kids in action, doing what we need to be reminded of sometimes. I just wanted to ask if you're working with the school boards, the two school boards at all, say students that drive to school and how they're getting to school every day. Are they taking transit? Are they driving their own cars? Are mom and dad driving them and dropping them off every day? So if you're the generation that is going to be the primary actors, are you working with the school boards too?
Yes. This year I was a student senator, so I represented Abbey Park to the Halton District School Board. I was also the Oakville Regional Director. Through that position, I was able to work with different students, and one of our goals was seeing how we can reduce our footprint. I know myself, I carpool with 3 friends in the morning because we live pretty far away, and that's our way of reducing our emissions. I know that I worked with my student council president to see how we can reduce emissions this year. So I got involved myself. How there is still work to be done, and I know next year a focus of the Student Senate will be reducing Halton's, through the school board, their emissions. There is work to be done at our school. A lot of people take their cars to school, and part of the reason why is the busing. It takes an hour for me to get home using my school bus. That just doesn't make sense when it would take 10 minutes if mom or dad were to drive me. So there is still work needed to be done, but there are people doing this work.
Thank you. And I think that, like your number targets, even if you create number targets and every school had a number target of, hey, we're going to see 15 less cars in the parking lot in the first 6 months. You know, you have number targets too. And I think that'll be great to come back and say, look, we're meeting it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you adults start meeting it too.
Yeah, there would be a lot of opportunity for student council presidents to get more involved. I know there's a campaign for that. That was a campaign issue at our school. Some work that we're working on is there's no green bins at our school. Just a lot of stuff goes in the trash. It's not just the carbon emissions, it's reducing the footprint. And I agree with you, there's a lot of work that
Good. It'll be a
done.
partnership. That's great. Thank you.
Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for coming out. You're very persuasive. Councillor Robertson covered a lot of what I wanted to ask you about. With your persuasiveness and your abilities, I'd love to see you come back to us in a year's time. in terms of waste reduction and the food bins and everything else, because I think if all of us have to do what we can, and with your talents, I look forward to hearing back in terms of the effects that you can change. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Lischina.
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrei, that was an excellent presentation, so I do commend you. And of course, going back to your earlier days, you're getting better. So I will challenge you on a couple of issues, though. So you yourself had indicated that it took a 15-page report to get here today. But I did not hear from you any commentary about the 15 pages, which it's just a significant amount of work that's been done since 2005 to actually make a comment about what's been happening in our town, because actions speak louder than words, if we're going to use different phrases. So can you make some comments about the projects and the strategies that the town has used for the past almost 15 years to actually take action?
Right, thank you. So I did meet with Suzanne, and we had a discussion about what the town has done. I'm very pleased to know that all the new buildings the town is building are carbon neutral. There's solar panels now at many of the community centers, at Glen Abbey Rec Center by my school. There's solar panels. I know that we're investigating electric buses. I heard that there's about 6 or 8 electric buses that the town has. Tree planting, the town is working with nonprofits as well, such as the Halton Environmental Network. I met with Lisa Kohler from there. There's the retrofitting programs. There is a lot of stuff that the town is doing. I didn't have the opportunity to memorize all 100 or so opportunities. However, I will say that, speaking to the report that we did make, we kind of looked at what the town did and what some other municipalities are doing. And what we did is myself and some other high school students from across Oakville worked on a report with what feasibly the town can do more based on what some other jurisdictions are doing as well. So yes, the town has been doing a lot of amazing work.
So you would agree that action is being taken on climate. So I understand the concept of the emergency and the crisis, but this didn't happen yesterday or the day before. This happened 15 years ago with the forethought of the people. I wasn't here. I actually came to the town at that time. But the forethought of the people who sit in these chairs, who actually took action through the years, through their strategic planning to make sure that we're on the right path. And I agree with you. I mean, the more trees we have, the better. Green space is huge in Oakville. So that's why people move here. Now, LED lighting, you would have seen some of that recently just by if you're walking in the neighborhoods about how much light pollution and how much energy we were taking. So there's a lot of action that's been taken, and I just don't want to lose the sight that, we declare an emergency, but nothing's been done in the past, which is absolutely not the case.
I would just like to reply to that. Yes, the town has done a lot of work. You guys know of the work you've been doing. I know a couple other people in the community.
Did you mention any of this in your survey or the petition when you sent? Because, when I saw actions like, politicians are not doing enough in your comments that you presented here, that's not the case here in Oakville. So that's why, when you put out something and you get people to jump on the bandwagon without actually doing more research and educating them, that could also be a big disservice.
To reply to the point, and then just to continue on what I was saying before, the reason why I said we're not doing enough is because the town's reduction target, as it stands right now, is 20% by 2030 and 80% by 2050. The UN has said that that is not enough. And yes, we're doing a lot of work, but to go back to the point of the climate change emergency declaration, a lot of people don't know about the work that the town has been doing, and we need to engage them somehow.
So are you using this platform to educate them as well? Because I didn't see it in there.
Right, so through my Instagram and through updates that I've been sending out, I have been telling people how to get more engaged. And as I said, as soon as this emergency declaration is passing, 1,600 people are going to get an email saying, the town agrees with you that this is an emergency. What can you do now to fight this crisis? Because once the crisis it becomes an active issue that everyone's working towards to solve, not just the town. Right now,
But you agree we didn't need the word crisis or emergency to start all the action that's happened in the last 15 years. Would you agree with that?
the work the town has been doing, there's 211,000 people in Oakville, and those are the people that we need to actually be doing more as well. So it's the town and
Well,
the
I
people.
look forward to your participation. Thank you.
Mr. Andrei, thank you very much, and you ended on a wonderful note, indicating that, you know, it is something that all of us have to work on if we're going to get anywhere. The town can only reduce its emissions. It can't reduce yours or anybody else's. And if the town made its emissions zero tonight, no change on Oakville's footprint would be registered because the town's activities are such a small part.
1.3%.
So we can lead, but until people will follow, it's going to be slow going, which is, I think, what Councillor Elgar was suggesting. So Councillor Knoll?
Thank you, Worship. First of all, I want to congratulate. That was a truly inspiring speech. I hope you're going to clip it off the YouTube feed from tonight and share it everywhere, because everybody your age and everybody my age and every other age out there needs to hear what you had to say. I agree with what you're saying. Communications is key, and I do believe honestly that that the declaration of an emergency is critical. I don't believe by any measure that you were here chastising us in any way whatsoever. I think you were raising the alarm through this venue and through our resolution and the work that we can do to communicate to our community. So I want to thank you for that. You've truly inspired me to go forward and to do even more. So thank you very much for that. I look forward to seeing your social media footprint grow as you continue to evangelize this very important topic.
Thank you for having me.
Anyway, thank you very much,
Okay,
sir,
thank you.
Mr. Andrei. I thought it was very, very good of you to end on the group note. There's 211,000 of us. We've all got to get involved. Thanks for that.
Thank you.